This is always the problem, because when you're trying to set up a program, you really want sort of three outcomes from it, don't you?
Succession planning.
Yep.
Is an important topic to yourself.
It is important. Most of us are of a certain age and we've done little about it. Or sometimes people have been unlucky, and the person that they'd banked on taking over has decided to do something else.
If the new blood's not there and staggeredly approach to progress and get into it over a number of years, get the right experience, and where do the people taking over
I think isn't it something that needs urgent attention.
NPAG.
So there's various sort of estates groups, there's security, there's IT, there's a district nursing group.
There's a decommissioning, sterilisation?
Yeah, I think there is. There's quite a few of the groups, and one of them is clinical engineering.
This episode is brought to you by British Medical Auctions, celebrating 10 years at the forefront of medical equipment resale and sustainability. Founded with a simple belief that high-quality medical technology should never be wasted, British Medical Auctions has spent the last decade redefining how hospitals buy, sell, and reuse equipment responsibly. Today, British Medical Auctions combines that 10-year heritage with the strength of the TBA Auctions Group, Europe's #1 auction network, giving healthcare sellers and buyers unrivaled reach, trust, and impact. As leaders in resale, circular healthcare, and long-term value creation, British Medical Auctions is helping build a more sustainable future for clinical engineering, not just for today, but for the next 10 years and beyond.
Hello and welcome to the show. We're here today at Leicester Royal Infirmary with Lawrence Barker, Deputy Head of Clinical Engineering. We must have known each other for roughly 5 years now, since your time at Coventry.
Yep.
We discussed the potential of myself joining your MEBS team at the time. That seems like a long time ago.
It sure is.
Yeah. But no, firstly, a bit of background and intro on yourself. Can you share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I've been in the game a long time. I think just over 40 years now. So I started off with West Midlands Regional Health Authority back in 1986. Oh, sorry, 84. After leaving school, didn't really know what I wanted to do, to be honest with you. And there was a course for trainee medical physics technicians.
Okay.
And I was interested in science, studied it at school. So I joined them, did my sort of cook's tour of different medical physics departments, so places like radiotherapy mould rooms, nuclear medicine departments, and the clinical equipment department at Warwickshire Hospital. And I decided I was most interested in that. In which case I was studying the wrong subject, really, wasn't I? Because I studied sort of things like medical uses of radiation protection, and only a little bit of electronics.
Yeah.
So I got to the end of that course, and there was a job going at Dudley Road Hospital in Birmingham.
Okay.
So I joined them at the end of my time, intended to stay perhaps 3 or 4 years, ended up staying 35. I did a course in the evening study at Dudley College of Technology to get my second HNC, which was electronic engineering.
Okay, yeah.
And really just progressed through the ranks there. Started off as a basic grade technician, and then gradually got promoted over the years. Ended up sort of supervising the electronics section. Dudley Road Hospital changed its name, became City Hospital.
Okay.
At the time when they started to change health authorities into NHS trusts, because I think it sounded a bit slicker, I think, at the time.
What sort of time frame was that?
Oh, that was in the 90s. And then City Hospital merged with Sandwell Hospital to form Sandwell and West Birmingham hospitals just after the millennium. I'd reached the position of acting head of department by that stage. But then there was a lot of complication to do with the merger. So I was made deputy head of the merged department.
Okay.
And then the head of department decided that he wanted to retire. So he took voluntary redundancy, and I became head of the combined department.
Okay. And what was the combination of the departments?
Well, it was the old department at Sandwell.
Okay.
Merged with the medical engineering department at City, sort of submerged into a single entity.
Yeah.
Although that was actually quite difficult because no trusts ever quite merge seamlessly. Everybody supports standardisation as long as you standardise on the thing that we use.
Yeah.
And everybody wants standardised ways of working as long as the way that we work. So it was an interesting time, but it did settle down very well. In the end, it began to feel like we were a sort of single unified department. I had a couple of big projects over there. One of them was the Birmingham Treatment Centre that we opened in 2005 on the city site, and the other was the Midland Metropolitan Hospital project.
Yeah.
That was interesting to say the least, and suffered from many delays and setbacks, and wasn't actually finished when I finally left there in 2021.
Yeah, is that something you regret a little bit, not seeing that through, or?
No, to be honest, I don't. I think you can give so much of your time and sort of energy to a project, but it was a project that was originally called towards 2010.
Okay, yeah.
And then we'd not even actually put a spade in the ground in 2010. And we decided that we'd better call it something else then, because 2010 came and went. Then we called it Right Care, Right Here. So it was to be a flagship PFI hospital. Then it got delayed by the government's reforms of PFI, and it was going to be a trailblazer for PF2. We then eventually got permission to go out to tender for it. We got one bidder, which unfortunately was Carillion. And Carillion obviously went bust in January 2018, I think it was now.
Gosh, it seems a long time ago.
Well, it all was. And we were left with a half-finished hospital that was open to the elements, so the wind and the rain literally blowing through it. Then it was very difficult to actually rescue that project at the time, because the banks had lost a lot of money. Sandwell Hospital Company that had been formed to run the PFI couldn't rescue it, so they dissolved themselves.
Okay.
And eventually managed to get permission for an interim building contract to just get it wind and watertight while they sorted the mess out, and that was won by Balfour Beatty.
Okay.
And eventually it was given permission to be completed as a publicly funded building, and Balfour's got the contract for that. Then it got held up by the Grenfell disaster, because they had to examine the cladding on the building. That didn't meet didn't meet the best fire safety standards at the time. It was a sort of silver standard, if you like, but it needed to be a platinum standard, so that created a lot more delay. And it was a shame, really, because in the end it was delivered years and years and years late.
Yeah.
But there's only so much energy you can put into it. It never had the money to equip it properly, and I was almost doing it as a bolt-on to the day job. And I think after so long, you sort of lose the drive to keep going at something. And
there's not just a couple of challenges there, is there?
No, because the day job's also difficult, and we were trying to sweat assets that should have been replaced, equipment that should have been replaced new in the new building we hadn't done. So it became quite difficult. You got staff that were very, very cynical. They were sort of, believing it was never going to be finished. They were never going to move into it.
Yeah, and budgets must change, because by the time you're able to procure equipment from, well, we're talking planning in the early 2000s, I assume.
Yep.
For this, to then when it finally came about just after
was after I left. It's just celebrated. Well, I think it celebrated its first anniversary just before Christmas. So it opened
reworked and reconsidered.
Yeah, and there were some complicated contracts that sat behind it, like the managed equipment service for imaging, because they were expecting to put all new imaging equipment into that building in about 2015 and then 2016. So all the phasing of that contract was affected by it. So nothing really ran smoothly with it. I'm glad it's built. It was great to actually see it finished. I've been back and seen it since, and it's a fantastic facility.
It should be, I suppose.
But did I miss it? No, probably not. I think it was time to do something else.
Okay. Just before we go on to the following roles after leaving Sandwell, I think typically not many people know what they want to do when they leave school. So you found this opportunity at the old Walsgrave Hospital in Coventry.
Yeah.
Through what sort of medium was that on? Where was the advertisement?
Oh, I can't honestly remember now. I think it was advertised. I think it was in the local paper actually. And there was a few things I could have done. I could have gone to do a university course, but this appealed to me more in lots of ways because I'm quite a practical person. So it's more hands on.
Yeah, I think I don't feel like I got into medical engineering very late at 26, and a recruiter sort of just, what do you think of coming into the industry? And it was for Steris.
Okay.
I didn't openly see these jobs there, and this is a long time after you were involved in the industry. And now I feel there's a little bit more. There's different medical engineering companies out there who offer apprenticeships. There's big OEMs who offer traineeships, but I don't feel it was as readily available. So to see the traineeships sort of in the 80s, that surprises me.
I think the West Midlands Regional Health Authority in its day did a very good job of trying to recruit school leavers. And there was quite a clear pathway after they dissolved regions. We went through a very long period where nobody was really doing any training. Industry was pinching out of the NHS. The NHS was pinching out of industry. If we wanted people, certainly in sort of the West Midlands, there was a ready supply of talent from the engineering companies that were closing at the time, and a lot of skilled engineers looking for work. That reversed though towards the later part of my time there, and we were actually getting companies like JLR ringing people up that had been retrained, gone into other industries when things folded, and they were sort of saying, you're still interested in a job, and offering salaries that we couldn't even touch because of such a shortage.
Well, that's definitely still a challenge for the NHS, isn't it? When you've got outside parties within the industry able to really significantly improve.
Yeah, absolutely. And some places have, started their own apprenticeship schemes, and they've done a brilliant job. And the two of the hospitals in the West Midlands have done fantastic jobs. Wolverhampton's one, the University Hospitals Birmingham's another one, and they've taken quite a number of trainees, and they've been very successful with their programs.
Yeah, excellent. So you leave Sandwell.
Yep.
Where do you land after that?
So at the time, my mum had got quite poorly. And that was another reason why priorities changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you sort of just take stock, don't you? And your life's changed a little bit. Mm-hmm. So a job would come up at Coventry, which actually was a senior medical device safety officer.
Okay.
And I just thought, well, if I applied for that and was successful, it was closer to home. So a load of travelling, taken out of my day. If anything happened with my mum, it wasn't very far to get to her to help out. So I applied for that, and I was offered the job. But they also said the head of MEBS, which is their medical equipment and bioengineering services job, will be coming up in a week's time. Would you be interested in applying? Which I knew nothing about that opportunity. So I said, well, thanks for letting me know. I'd certainly like to consider it.
Yeah.
So that came up. I applied for that, and I was lucky enough to have the choice of the two roles. So the head of MEBS role was obviously attractive to me because it was literally within walking distance of home, and it was actually a band higher than Sandwell, and there was no new hospital to equip.
Okay. And how long were you at university hospital?
I was only there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Mum passed away. I asked if I could reduce my hours because I was in a position to do that then, start to sort of think about phased retirement, if you like.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a confused situation there, unfortunately, because I had two directors, both on the same grade, who wouldn't talk to each other, which made life a little complicated. One said yes, the other said no. Then the one that had said yes decided to step down. So it's all the usual complications of difficult structures. And I was told, well, it's got to be everything or nothing. So I said, well, there's only one answer to that, really, isn't there? So I'll step down.
That's it. It puts you in a difficult position when you've got real life challenges to consider.
Yeah. So I decided at the time, I think things had moved on a little bit for me. I could afford to step down, and I wanted to do that. So I decided to leave Coventry at that point. So that was September 2023. So I was there virtually exactly 2 years.
Yeah, and you get involved with a few different things post Coventry.
Yeah, well, there's a few sort of happy accidents, if you like. So while I was at Coventry, I joined the National Performance Advisory Group for Clinical Engineering.
Yep.
Which I've been asked to do before when I was at Sandwell, but I never felt I got the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined that at Coventry. It was in sort of September time, and the NPAG membership runs for 12 months, the calendar year.
Yep.
So I rang them up and said I won't be coming to any more of your meetings because I've decided to retire from the NHS. And the business manager, Marie, said, she said, well, would you fancy running the NPAG groups then if you've got some time on your hands? Because our facilitator's about to step down at the end of this year.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be something that would be worthwhile doing because I'd enjoy going to the groups, and I've obviously, got many years of making contacts in the profession. And I'd got nothing else to fill my time much at that point. So I said I'd be willing to give that a go. So I took that on.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd never try and resign from there. And then I did a little bit of consultancy work for MTS Health.
Okay.
For a few months. And in the meantime, Leicester had come up with a role, the deputy head of clinical engineering, supporting our head of department, Jazz, especially around sort of capital equipment for a couple of days a week, which I applied for and got. Sort of suits my my newfound lifestyle now.
And you got that semi-retirement you were looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got it's about 2.5 days a week it is now. So sort of, Monday, by the time you've got rid of Mondays, it's sort of halfway through the week, and Tuesday's almost the new Friday for me. And then a bit of other stuff depending on what they want, meetings here and there and emails and stuff, but in a rather more relaxed way.
Nice. What did the consultancy work at MTS look like? What sort of projects were you involved with?
That was a very specific role, actually, that they'd been engaged to look at a hospital that got some very specific problems. So they were sort of trying to do a bit of a turnaround program, just to get compliance back on track and give some sort of assurances around governance to the hospital management.
Oh, thank you. So that brings us up to speed.
Yep.
So we've covered a little bit, background, the agency in electrical engineering. You also did a master's in clinical engineering.
I did.
Right.
Yeah, that was around 2000 actually. That was a part-time course at Cardiff University. So it's 4 study weekends a year, and sort of a lot of coursework, and then a dissertation.
Was that provoked due to going into that senior role within Sandwell? Also at the time, running the department.
There was a few of us actually did it together, all at the same time. Now, I think we knew somebody from Tyco actually that had done a master's degree at the time.
Yeah.
And it was a good opportunity really, because HNCs and what have you are great practical qualifications.
Yeah.
But there's obviously, a lot of other things, NHS specific things that they don't cover, because they're quite generic engineering qualifications. So this really was aimed at people working in the NHS, and that included things that you wouldn't look at otherwise, things like NHS governance and management systems, inventory management, life cycle management.
Yeah. Is Cardiff still like a leading provider for that sort of course?
It doesn't run any longer, which is rather a shame. And I think this is one of the difficulties in clinical engineering, that that academic courses haven't necessarily been available as people have sort of needed to access them. They've been a bit disjointed from training programs, and everybody's had to sort of feel their way to something that works.
Yeah, I haven't come across Cardiff in my short time in the
No.
industry. So no, I wasn't much familiar. I think there's down Bristol way. There's something a lot
West of it, University of the
yeah,
West of
that's
England
seems
runs
to be
one, and they're very good because I think from their course you'll actually automatically get accreditation for professional registration,
okay.
or you can lead on to it. Others don't necessarily do that, and I think this is always the problem because when you're trying to set up a program, you really want sort of three outcomes from it, don't you? You want to actually train people to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually, can
Equip
pick,
them with it.
pick up a screwdriver, fault find, practical skills that they can apply in the workplace. You want to give them a recognised academic qualification that they've got for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And preferably professional registration as well. And not all of those things have been possible simultaneously. And I think that's been a real difficulty. One that some places have now cracked after quite a long time. Wolverhampton again is a good example of it.
Okay. Yeah. Is there experience from yourself involved with Wolverhampton?
No. Except that their training lead has actually moved on recently into a different role, still at Wolverhampton, but he was one of our proteges at Sandwell actually. Sag Jael.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
This podcast series is proudly sponsored by British Medical Auctions, Europe's specialists in medical equipment resale, backed by the scale of the TBA Auctions Group, and proud to be celebrating 10 years of supporting clinical engineering teams worldwide. British Medical Auctions approaches resale as a responsibility, not a transaction, combining 10 years of medical auction leadership, clinical expertise, stakeholder trust, industry compliance, and global buyer reach.
What does a typical day look like for you? You've touched on it a little bit with sort of governance.
In this role,
Yeah, in your role today.
This role it tends to be supporting Jay in whatever things he wants me to do, and it depends quite a lot about the sort of time of year. So at this time of year, sort of towards the end of the financial year, an awful lot of it's about making sure that we've delivered the capital programme. So has the equipment come through the door? Have we got the invoice for it? Is it all complete? Have we receipted it? Have we paid the invoice? But then also, of course, have we liaised with the end user? Have we got the training set up? Have we got the commissioning date for it set up? Have we made sure we're going to take the old equipment out?
Yeah.
So all those sorts of things. After April, it'll be more about planning what we're going to do with next year's capital allocation.
Yeah.
And then there's some sort of bespoke projects that I get given at different points. For instance, we had an away day, very successful away day for the department just over a year ago. So I got quite involved in setting that up. The other thing I got quite involved in was following up the staff survey too.
And the away day, explain that to me.
That was a day that we had to actually try and get some external speakers in to actually sort of talk to our own staff. So we took them out of the workplace for a day. We got them a venue off site.
Yeah.
And we got some external speakers. Professor Richard Scott was one of them. He used to be at a department at Bristol.
Yeah.
To sort of talk about their vision of clinical engineering, their experience of it, how they managed to sort of go from the trainee to in his case, head of clinical physics and biomedical engineering at Bristol, and become a professor in the process, as well as very involved in teaching. So sort of what is possible. Another speaker was talking about sort of research that they do at the local university and what involvement people could actually get with things like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's sort of half part what this is about here, is just to give a bit of light, show where you can go with it, speaking to people in your positions. But no, that's a little bit different for the guys typically tucked up in wards and workshops to get the opportunity to go and do.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people don't realise how broad the profession can actually be and what it involves. So, some people do want to spend their time at the bench fixing stuff. They're very happy doing it. They're very competent doing it. And that's absolutely fine. Other people do have abilities to sort of do other things, but at times then you need to develop other skills, and it's not always easy to sort of move on really from one thing to another, because there's very often little formal training involved.
Yeah.
You know, I've always found the jump to actually looking after staff to be quite difficult, because it's something you don't get a lot of training in. You suddenly get given a few staff to supervise.
Yeah. Deal with this.
Finance is a big jump as well, I think, because the NHS has got very specific financial rules. It's got all its standing financial instructions. It's got its capital, it's got its revenue. People don't always understand what the rules are around those. It's got its tendering processes. And it's easy to fall foul of all of those, because again, you don't very often get led by the hand and shown these things. You often get thrown in the deep end, and often you sort of learn by trial and error. Capital projects, another area that I've been very involved in my time, but some people never get involved with that.
Okay. What and why is that?
Just because I think it depends where you are at the time and what your role is. I worked for a director of estate for a long time that would sort of pop up and say, Lawrence, I want you to build an equipping list for this project that we've got. And he'd give me a list of rooms and ask me what equipment we needed to buy and how much it cost, and say, you've got till Monday to do it.
This Friday afternoon.
It very often was Friday afternoon. Again, it's interesting, and actually managing the delivery of that sort of large scale equipping into a real project.
Yeah.
I cut my teeth on that, I guess, at the Birmingham Treatment Centre.
Okay.
Which was a small scale PFI building. Where we were responsible for supplying all the Class 2 equipment into the project. And if we didn't deliver it on time, we'd have been responsible for delaying the project. And there's a bit of a antagonistic relationship can go on between sort of project companies and the client. At that stage, everybody's always very friendly and obliging at the negotiation stage. But once the contract's signed, and things start to go adrift, it's easy to blame equipment for project delays.
Yep. Yeah, I can imagine.
So, and the sort of same thing on a much bigger scale was true at Midland Metropolitan Hospital as well, really. Because in PFI projects, one of the things that you always have to do early on is to develop the PSC, the public sector comparator. So we develop a model of what we would build if we were building it ourselves, to compare against the PFI consortia's offering.
Yeah.
And if you sort of go to market and get several offers, then that's sort of one of the tests, really. How does it shape up against our sort of model?
Okay.
But one of the things that they need for that, I say, is a sort of full equipment list, which is interesting in a sort of 700 bed hospital.
Yeah. Miss it?
I quite enjoy projects.
Yeah.
We've done a few of them here, to be fair. I did the East Midlands Plan Care Centre. We've just delivered a new endoscopy unit with 6 procedure rooms. So I get a little bit involved with some of those. Quite like them. Yeah, quite enjoy the project side of it. It's interesting. It's different angle.
Good. I feel like maybe this next question you might have answered this, because it seems like you've taken quite a lot of pride in the treatment centre and the challenges that's presented, plus the Metropolitan maybe. But what's the great success you've achieved in your career today?
Probably actually bringing together the 2 disparate departments at City Hospital and Sandwell.
Okay.
I would say.
Yeah.
Because there was an adversarial relationship between the 2 departments. Nobody really likes being merged, and hadn't been very successful initially. There was a bad relationship between the medical engineering department at Sandwell and the medical physics department next door. So bad actually that there was an interconnecting door between their workshops, and they'd both taken the door handles off,
Wow.
so they couldn't walk through. So that was bad. But at City, we looked after imaging equipment, whereas at Sandwell they had no involvement with it. So we've got a track record with their imaging equipment, and there wasn't any way that we couldn't be involved with it within the merged trust.
Yep.
And we got along very well with each other anyway, so it was kind of silly.
Yeah.
But actually, by breaking down those sorts of bad relationships, I think we actually made the workplace a lot better, and we improved the opportunities for people. We improved the whole sort of atmosphere, and it was much better. So I think you can make those sorts of improvements. They're difficult because people things are always difficult. Equipment things are relatively easy, aren't they? If it doesn't work, you can fix it or scrap it or whatever. People far more tricky.
Yeah. Ways of working, minds, everybody's operating a little bit differently.
Attitudes, trying to break down prejudices, all of those things, trying to get a spirit of cooperation and trust. It's never easy.
How long do you feel that took to achieve?
It took several years. It was always a work in progress, but by the end of it, no, it's a much better place. And now that they've actually moved into the same workshop in the new Midland Metropolitan Hospital, of course, that's really brought things together. I think much better. Like the satellite workshops on both the old sites, because they still exist. Okay. It was always going to be the case that it had to come together at a certain point, and that was always going to be that point. Difficult as well because trusts tend to turn things into single site specialties.
Okay.
As part of mergers. Right. So when we first merged, Sandwell had got a maternity department, City had got a maternity department, but they merged it all onto the City site. Yeah. Because it was much more efficient, and I can see all of that. But of course, then the guys at Sandwell, if they were always just going to sit in the same place, wouldn't see any more maternity equipment until they all came back together again at Midland Med. And that's not something you want to do, to let those skills be lost. Mm-hmm. So some sort of rotation was always gonna be important. Okay. But people are always resistive of it. They've always got a reason why they like the home site. It's closer to home. There's the people they know. It's familiar. Yeah. So always challenging, I think.
What are the greatest challenges in the industry you've come across, and what's still out there today?
I think the NHS's challenges to a large extent. I mean, the NHS is still talking about the same problems as it has been all of my working life, really. We're never going to change those. We've only got the same number of ITU beds as we had 20 years or more ago. Yeah. And yet we've got people, iller. We can do more for them. The population's grown. Mm-hmm. Lots of socioeconomic disadvantage in so many areas, but we've still not really got the capacity to do any more than cope on an ordinary average day. Yeah. And as soon as anything goes wrong, some sort of challenge like winter pressures, we just can't cope. We're still talking about length of stay, and we've not really managed to crack it. We're still talking about problems with readmissions and pressures at the front door, yeah. Bed blocking. We've never solved it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that we've got the means to solve it now.
Even with the lots of things like the new Metropolitan Hospital, new sites, new facilities, still
built. It's got some great facilities like single rooms.
That's just Birmingham.
Better isolation facilities, but it was still only built with the same sized ITU as what was left on the old sites.
Right. Okay.
And even if you could build it with the additional capacity, you probably couldn't afford to staff it, and even if you could, you probably couldn't find the people to do it. So I think it's money, it's capacity, it's institutional problems, no matter how smart the technology becomes, and it can help, yeah. But it's not the biggest factor. It never has been, and I don't honestly think it ever will be.
Well, I suppose it's something to open the awareness of the listeners to it and the industry, this idea of it, to get the idea of what this sort of world looks like, the challenges you see from your position. For individuals looking to get into clinical engineering, what are the characteristics, skill sets you'd look for? You did mention earlier the ability to pick up the screwdriver.
I think a practical aptitude is something that's very, very important. It's not necessarily something that you can teach somebody. I think it tends to be something that's fairly innate.
Yeah.
Sort of logical problem solving skills. Can somebody look at something and work something through in a fairly logical manner? So a fairly inquiring mind. And then obviously, some reasonable academic prowess. Doesn't have to be exceptional. That can be taught.
Yeah. That's that on-site training, sort of piggybacking off other people.
Absolutely, yeah. Fairly self-motivated as well. You're not going to be able to ask somebody for reassurance about every single thing you do. A sort of a combination of all those things.
Training's an important topic for you. What are the current pathways for individuals to get into the industry?
So there's a few different routes. Obviously, the NHS, generally best to contact your local hospitals, BBME department, clinical engineering, medical engineering, wherever it might be called. That's one of the problems. There's so many different titles for it.
Yeah.
But most of the hospitals now have got some sort of training scheme.
Yeah.
Some of the private providers have, people like MTS Health, they've got their own apprentices up and running now, because people have found that this old talent pool has basically dwindled.
I don't think that just sits within our little small pocket of medical engineering, though. That's engineering, isn't it?
It's engineering across the board.
A small little pocket which is suffering as well.
Yeah, I think one of the not just us, like you say. I think one of the things that HS2 had to do before they virtually started work was to actually open a training school in Birmingham. Not what you'd think of for somewhere like Birmingham years ago. We need some engineers. Birmingham would be your place. No, not anymore.
Yeah.
So we've all sort of tended to find it. I think we've all reacted rather late, but I'm glad that we've acted at all.
Needs must.
Yeah, absolutely. We try to make some approaches through some of the school networks as well.
Do you have representation going out to local schools?
Some certainly do, through things like the STEM ambassadors networks.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Just to try and put it out there that actually there are careers in this. And the NHS isn't good at making that known. Other industries are certainly much better at saying, that we're recruiting apprentices and why don't you join us?
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, I'd have probably snapped it up. I tried 2 different apprenticeship schemes, and the last one was with Caterpillar.
Okay.
Manufacturing mechanical engineering, and I did different service engineering routes because I'd got this one qualification. It held a little bit of weight, and it was I was able to adapt with it, just take it, and eventually that landed me into medical engineering. But I'd have jumped at something, whether it was through an OEM private sector or the NHS.
Absolutely.
I came to the party a little bit late.
Yeah, but I think it's the case with a lot of the supporting professions in the NHS. We're not necessarily particularly good at making people aware of it.
Yeah.
We sort of expect them to find us.
Hopefully this is something, put it out there.
Oh, absolutely.
People like you saying what we can do. We've just touched on it. But what is the difference between the variance in terms of our medical engineering departments? We've got clinical engineering.
Does not.
There's EBME, there's medical physics.
It's one of those things. I think that depends on who set it up, when they set it up. Did they set it up as a part of an estates department? Did they set it up as part of a medical physics department? Most of these departments were set up in the 1970s.
Yeah.
As equipment was becoming more widely used and people realised that they needed to do something about looking after it, managing it, maintaining it.
Yeah.
And I think it often just depended on who originally set it up and what they liked the sound of. There's no universal name.
Yeah. No, it threw me to begin with, because you'd be going there to sign in with medical engineering, possibly.
Yeah.
It could be here, when I used to go and look after the Eshman tables and theatre at the Royal, it was a little side room attached to theatres, all sort of admin, clinical type people. It could be estates, it could be engineering. It differed every time, but you didn't always know where you were even.
I think our last survey of NPAG suggested that there are more called clinical engineering than anything else, but it's by no means a monopoly.
Yeah.
I think there's only one MEBS.
That's your old
Coventry.
place. Yeah.
I've never heard of another one of
No,
those.
me neither. Succession planning.
Yep.
These are important topics to yourself.
It is important.
Tell me about them.
Again, I don't think we've done enough of it. If I'm bluntly honest, there isn't a lot in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Because people have not really been looking at it hard enough.
Okay.
You know, truthfully, I mean, I'm older than my boss. You know, and I'm sort of part retired here, and I'm his deputy. When I was at Coventry, my deputy was a bit older than me.
Yeah.
Sandwell very slightly better. But I don't think we've paid enough attention to it, and a lot of departments are saying the same, certainly through our NPAG network.
Yeah.
They're sort of saying, you know, that most of us are of a certain age and we've done little about it. Or sometimes people have been unlucky, you know, and the person that they'd banked on taking over has decided to do something else.
I think it just cascades through the whole problem, really, doesn't it? The whole topic is there's you guys at the top running the departments, but there's that new blood coming into it, whereas if the new blood's not there and staggeredly approach to progress and get into it over a number of years, get the right experience, and where do the people taking over the...
I think, isn't it, something that needs urgent attention? And it is the sort of thing that doing master's degrees late, you know, part way through your career will stand you in quite good stead to do as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
You know, to give you that extra level of qualification, to sort of give you that bit more of an insight into the broader sort of management of departments and sort of money within the NHS. Anyway, that's why I was hoping you'd have come to Coventry, Johnny.
What, so you abandoned me?
No, so you could have been so you could have taken over.
That ship sailed. Authorising engineers.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's an interesting direction, because we've been for a long time in a space where we've been looking at self-assurance in terms of governance. Yeah. So, you know, nothing to see here, everything's absolutely fine, is our KPIs.
Yeah.
And obviously we do a lot of measurement and validation of stuff through our quality management systems.
Yeah.
But they're quite internally focused. So we might think that things are okay within our own little patch,
yeah,
but are things okay in terms of the broader organisation?
Okay.
And that's something I don't think that we've got an awful lot of sight of, or is not so much even for us as clinical engineers, but does the trust board have sight of management of its equipment? So at trust board level, one of the execs should have responsibility for medical devices. So who actually is it, and what information are they getting, and how do they assure themselves that medical devices within the broader picture are properly managed and maintained?
Yeah.
So they might have a brilliant clinical engineering department, they might not, but is the MES that's providing the imaging equipment properly managed? You know, are all of the safety notices affecting imaging equipment up to date? Have they all been responded to? Who actually who actually knows that they're up to date? Are things coming through supplies on consumables deals and ending up in theatres that nobody actually knows about? Yeah. So the whole sort of gambit around medical devices, maybe bed management. Is that properly looked after? Is that on a separate contract? Is somebody properly looking after that, or is it just something that's going on in the background? So the whole sort of broad picture is what they're talking about in terms of the external assurance that is now being looked at.
And how much time do you think that individual is going to require to be on a site like this?
So that's quite a big question. So what they're going to do, they're going to put an extra question into the PAMS return, the premises assurance model at estates return every year that builds the model hospital return for the for NHS England. And one of those questions is going to be, have you appointed an authorising engineer for medical device management? And in a similar way to decontamination, to fire, to water safety, this is going to be somebody, an independent person that is being brought in to look objectively at medical device management across the organisation and give an independent assurance that everything's in order, or make recommendations if they think that some parts of it aren't.
How soon has this got to come in place?
It'll be the summer of this year, so it'll be interesting to just see how much that correlates with the view that's been taken previously.
Okay. I'm expecting some kickbacks.
It'll just be interesting to see. It may make very little difference. It may, of course, give people a bit of a shock. It'll just be interesting to see what that external view looks like for somebody to come in and take a different perspective to those of us that are actually engaged in sort of delivering the services, that might not necessarily be able to see the wood for the trees. We might think it's all absolutely fine in our own little corner, but will somebody else
Just enlighten.
agree?
NPAG.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about this. So we mentioned the National Performance and Advisory Group.
Yep.
Who are they? What do they do?
Okay, so this was something that was set up as a set of benchmarking groups for the NHS. It's been going a long time now. It's about 40 years. It's looked after by the East of England Ambulance Service. And the idea was to create networks of people across the NHS to look at particular support services. So there's various sort of estates groups, there's security, there's IT, there's a district nursing group.
There's a decommissioning, sterilisation?
Yeah, I think there is. There's quite a few of the groups, and one of them is clinical engineering. So the idea originally was just to get a few heads of departments together for information sharing, really, to share sort of best practice, but to also be able to sort of bounce off each other. So if somebody wanted a job description for some new role that they've got to write, somebody else has probably done it. So could we put a question round to the membership and say, has anybody got a job description for a capital projects lead or a senior medical device officer or whatever job you might.
Consistency.
Partly consistency, partly because somebody else has probably already done the legwork, and what's the point in reinventing the wheel all the time? They probably thought of something that you wished you had. But the other one was really to compare sort of prices and benchmarking information, which can be really useful if you're sort of writing a business case or faced with a cost pressure. Somebody comes along and says, I want you to lose 10, make 10% cost efficiency saving on your non-pay budget next year. To say, well, hang on a minute, we're already, per item of equipment, the lowest funded department in the UK as far as we know. And our technicians have already got twice as many assets per member of staff as anybody else, and you think we can lose a further 10%. It gives you some quite powerful data.
Yeah, something to go back at.
Yeah, so it was very much set up as that. We've broadened it out a little bit now, so we meet 4 times a year. There's 2 groups, the North and the South. They both have the same agendas, but we split the 2 groups up just because they're a bit too big otherwise for people to have sensible conversations. and it can be difficult to find one single venue for everybody. But one of the meetings is an annual conference. We've helped that at Stansted the last couple of years. And at those meetings, we have a couple of presentations that sort of new innovation, new product, maybe a new service, or a project that somebody's done that would be of sort of general interest to sort of leaders within the profession, if you like.
Yep. And your role within it is running the Northern group.
Both the groups.
Oh,
So
okay.
I sort of find that the speakers, for the groups, I organise the speakers for the conference. I write up the minutes, do the agendas, sort of do the admin, supported by the business team at the NPAG offices are very good.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to close off with our time here today, what platforms can listeners find you on to sort of connect and interact?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Yep.
So if you want to find me on that.
I'll tag you into the post.
As our NPAG.
Mm-hmm.
So that there's quite a few posts actually of NPAG. So if you look up just NPAG National Performance Advisory Groups, and take us into that, or
can get involved and get in touch.
Business manager Marie Cherry, she'll link you into any other socials.
Yeah,
she's far more professional with that than I am.
No, she's great. She gave me her time, obviously, to discuss this as well.
She's brilliant.
Great,
Very
appreciate
adept at social media.
No, brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for today. And this is the start of this podcast sort of project. You offered your time very early doors to get this up off the floor, so I hugely appreciate that. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Cheers.
Thank you.